This is another critical moment. Democracy, pluralism, the rule of law, self-determination, and freedom.
Tommy Robinson will be freed from jail within days after showing a change in attitude.
Arrested for a tweet, jailed for an opinion, British citizens are being silenced, and now the King himself is stepping in to stop it. This bold move against the government is making headlines worldwide. Why now? Watch to uncover the shocking events. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video.
His sentence was made up of a 14-month punitive element and a 4-month coercive element. This meant 4 months could be slashed from his jail term if he were to purge his contempt and show he was taking steps not to break the injunction that originally landed him behind bars. The far-right activist, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, was locked up for 18 months in October for contempt of court. Robinson had repeatedly breached an injunction in 2021, which barred him from repeating false allegations against a Syrian refugee who successfully sued him for libel.
What happens if your freedom is taken away from you because of anything you publish on social media? This is the actual situation that is taking place in the UK right now, not the plot of a fictional television show, a setting where opposing viewpoints could result in jail time, changing the definition of public discourse. Often hailed as an inviolable democratic value, the right to free speech is now at the centre of a contentious and divisive national discussion. And the most shocking of all, the cases that sharply highlight this issue. Take Lucy Connolly into custody. Her life has been drastically changed by a single tweet that was written more than 4 years ago. Authorities deemed it to be offensive content, even though it wasn't violent or incendiary. She received a 31-month prison sentence for what many would consider to be an outdated internet remark. Critics have pointed out the concerning ramifications of her story, which has shocked the media. What other long-forgotten tweets, posts, or comments might come to light and result in the same punishments? Connolly transformed from a regular citizen to a significant figure in the debate over whether or not state censorship is becoming more prevalent in Britain. Her 31-month sentence is more of a reminder that dissenting on public platforms is becoming a dangerous thing than a punishment. And not just obscure social media users are at risk. Tommy Robinson's situation provides a similar, but no less concerning story. Robinson, whose divisive public image has long caused division in the country, was caught up in it again. His case has rekindled discussions about the boundaries of lawful speech after he was arrested and charged with what supporters said was a broadly defined violation connected to his online campaigning. Robinson has experience with the legal system, it should be said, but this recent incident feels unique. His arrest, according to many of his supporters, is indicative of a trend in the way the British legal system treats politically awkward voices. Regardless of whether one considers Robinson to be a campaigner or a provocateur, his predicament begs the important and long overdue question of where the line between free speech and hate speech actually is. What's more unsettling is if the boundary was selected at random. People naturally start making comparisons when they hear about circumstances like Connolly's or Robinson's. Ultimately, what role do these tales play in the larger context of justice in contemporary Britain? Examine recent instances wherein various types of online content, which many would contend transcend offensive, have had strikingly different, frequently less severe repercussions. For instance, posts that incite violence against minority groups frequently result in warnings or penalties rather than arrests. Many people view this discrepancy as obvious hypocrisy. Why is a single tweet punishable by almost 3 years in prison, yet public safety concerns are treated more leniently? The gap is highlighted by facts, not speculation. More than 3,300 arrests in the UK were linked to social media in 2022 alone, a rising number that concerns civil rights activists. The stark differences in sentencing trends across these cases indicate that justice is not being served, but rather that fairness is being jeopardised. Naturally, people have begun to ask questions. Social media sites are now overflowing with responses, from condemnation of what many see to be dictatorial overreach to support of these stringent regulations as a necessary evil to keep the peace. Free speech has become the focal point of a crisis of national identity. The sheer amount of discussion highlights a larger issue than the people affected. These legal interpretations are not unique. Rather, they reflect a larger change in the way that public conversation is regulated. The courts convey messages in addition to punishing, and the message has been clear lately. Watch what you say. There is increasing skepticism about this development. It appears to be a steep slope toward authoritarianism, according to analysts. As arbiters of what may and cannot be said, critics contend that governments that profess to protect citizens from dangerous speech sometimes conflate protecting and censoring. Is the goal to shield the powerful from unpopular viewpoints or to protect communities? This nagging worry has now escalated to the level of the monarchy itself, which is a novel and controversial phenomenon, and that's when King Charles shows up out of the blue. The king has decided to step in at a time when tensions about government overreach and free speech are intensifying to unprecedented levels. Although his involvement in such politically delicate matters is far from traditional, his voice bears the weight of tradition. This type of opposition to the judicial system in a constitutional monarchy produces a whole new story that few could have predicted. However, what precisely is Charles doing to upset this equilibrium? Things become even more surprising at that point. Why would the King of England intervene in the delicate field of arrests for free speech? It's an unexpected, yet well thought out move that serves as a reminder that, even though the monarchy is mostly symbolic in contemporary Britain, it still has power when it decides to step in. According to recent rumours, King Charles has made a rare and audacious break from his customarily apolitical stance by deciding to contest the Labour government's handling of instances involving online speech. Charles avoided openly criticising government policies for the most of his reign, and even before that, when he was Prince of Wales. This departure from long-standing convention implies that something more remarkable is going on. In addition to raising eyebrows, the King's alleged decision to examine arrests such as those of Tommy Robinson and Lucy Connolly is almost unusual. Such actions are particularly offensive in a monarchy that coexists with a parliamentary democracy. Charles was deeply disturbed by the trend of jailing citizens for offensive speech, according to insiders. According to one source, this worry resulted in a straightforward but subdued appeal to the cabinet, demanding that they cease the persecution or face constitutional consequences. Even when a king uses such rhetoric in private, it is rarely connected to disagreements over domestic policy. However, it seems that he did more than just say things. Take Tommy Robinson's shortened sentence, which some people attribute to the king's tactful but decisive involvement. Even his critics have questioned the harshness of Robinson's recent legal punishments, despite the fact that he has been a lightning rod for controversy due to his divisive statements and public campaigns. According to people familiar with the case, Charles specifically lobbied for Robinson's sentence to be re-evaluated, which led to an instant adjustment. Although it had far-reaching consequences, it was a victory for proponents of free expression. It sparked debate on whether Robinson's penalty was just as well as whether any citizen, prominent or not, should feel free to voice their thoughts in modern-day Britain without worrying about reprisals. Then there is the instance of Lucy Connolly, who was imprisoned for 31 months for an old tweet that many believed exemplified the excesses of the laws in place. Years later, Connolly's tweet, which had previously been removed with an apology, was discovered and found to be grounds for a lengthy jail sentence. Her case was cited by opponents of free speech laws as an instance of government overreach, but no significant change was brought about until it was reported that the king himself had taken note. Now widely reported, Connolly's story has come to represent what some have dubbed a two-tiered legal system. These laws frequently make the claim that they shield communities from harmful or hostile speech, but in reality, they seem to be enforced differently depending on the person or group at issue. The king has unintentionally increased awareness of the system's larger hypocrisies by voicing worries about Connolly's predicament in particular. It's intriguing how this action could lead to a conflict between the government and the monarchy. British monarchs have always maintained a neutral posture, rarely, if ever, battling with elected leaders on issues of policy. However, it appears like King Charles is pushing those limits. According to reports, Labour ministers are re-evaluating how they handle arrests connected to speech after being rattled by the king's meddling. According to some sources, there is a political firestorm going on within Labour's ranks, with multiple ministers frantically trying to quell what appears to be an increasing public outcry. The public's reaction to the king's actions only makes matters worse. If the monarchy's opposition to the government's legal orientation wasn't enough of a stir, while some have criticised him for going beyond his constitutional authority, many have hailed his intervention as essential and even long overdue. Although concerns over Britain's precarious power structure have existed before, King Charles' unusual engagement has brought the entire system of authority under scrutiny. Due to decades of custom and accords that place a premium on neutrality, the monarchy has traditionally played a ceremonial role in political matters. The foundation of constitutional monarchy is this notion. However, Charles is influencing things more than just symbolically, in this case. His activities are reminiscent of a time in the past when kings directly influenced national affairs, albeit not without controversy. This conflict over free expression has far-reaching effects that go well beyond court proceedings or legal discussions. It goes right to the core of Britain's democratic identity and the monarchy's place in it. According to one reading, King's intervention represents the public's mounting discontent with government overreach. Charles may just be presenting himself as a champion of the people, a position that has been established by centuries of royal tradition, by taking action in cases that have provoked indignation. Some believe that his actions are dangerous because they conflate direct activism with constitutional etiquette. Unquestionably, though, it is currently effective, compelling Labour ministers to take stock of the public's disapproval. In the end, this is about more than just King Charles, Lucy Connolly, or Tommy Robinson. It has to do with a changing dynamic in British government, the extent to which the monarchy can, or should, have influence in the 21st century is called into question when the king publicly criticises the behaviour of elected politicians. The status quo may be more precarious than it appears if Charles's subdued yet defiant answer is any indication. And since justice and public confidence are at stake, what transpires next may have an impact on Britain's future that we are not yet ready for. The King's intervention reinterprets the monarchy's role in contemporary politics, in addition to challenging Britain's stance on free speech. The government is currently attempting to control the repercussions after Charles reportedly criticised Labour's assault on online dissent. Ministers are terrified, according to internal briefings, that this would indicate a change in public opinion and undermine their control over free speech regulations. However, is this an action that protects rights or one that could exacerbate ideological differences? There is no doubt that a king's historic role in intervening in policy conflicts is far from ended. Keep an eye out